But we so messed up with the 73, with the Yom Kippur War. It started off so horribly that there truly was, in the natural means of things, Syria in the north, Egypt in the south, and Israel's crushed in the middle. And God made so many miracles because we weren't going to strike first. It's so important, that preemptive strike. God runs the world, but he wants us to do what makes the most sense strategically, militarily. So even though I have 5 children in Israel, even though both Musi and Moshe, their planes are canceled and they're stuck there for now, I'm very, very, very happy with the preemptive strike.
It had to be done long time ago. And
absolutely.
Yes, by Hashem's to defend not only Israel but other countries. And I'm glad that Trump understands that and fully supports this mission.
Amen. Amen. I agree. Anyone else? Any other thoughts people have been having since Thursday night or whenever you found out?
Hi, this is Hava. Of course, first I found out about Israel preemptive strike, and I was very happy, very proud to be part of amazing, unbelievable Jewish people. And then I learned about missiles flying back to Israel, and people being in shelters. And my sister lives in Israel, and I called her, and she said, I can't talk right now. I'm running to the shelter. And just like 1 minute that she talked to me, she was so, how to say, positive, excited, and praising Netanyahu, like how genius Netanyahu is. And like, to me, that was amazing. She's running to the shelter for her life. But in her voice, there's like amazing Netanyahu, that like the world doesn't know any other leader so genius and so smart, and like was so much, I guess, strength and positivity and support for what Netanyahu and the whole Israel army is doing. So that's amazing to see how Israelis ready and willing, and in spite of the fact that they're taking shelter, and unfortunately lives were lost. So it's very difficult, and but at the same time we understand that how many more lives could have been lost if Israel didn't start what they started, this righteous war.
Absolutely. I know my husband, when he goes on Mitzrayim every Friday. So he goes to various Israelis to put tefillin on them. He said everyone was so proud, so full of joy, so full of pride with what was going on. Exactly like I was saying, they had such pride, such joy, such triumph. And yes, as you're saying, the country is very united across the board, feeling, and all camps, all stripes, feeling very proud and very committed to a very righteous war, an existential war, and also very, like Menucha was saying, for the whole world, which of course makes sense that the Jewish people are doing something for the whole world. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Anyone else something to share before we start? It's not like what I have to say is any different or more better than anyone else here. So anyone else? We're all going through, and everybody I speak to in Israel, it's all has this feeling of, wow, this is big. This is like history. This is like changing the geopolitical map. This is huge. And we're living through very huge times. When COVID happened and my children were like, Ma, when was the last time? I'm like, there never was a last time. There never was a last time. This is something that's changing the world. And then October 7th, feeling that, and now feeling that, like this is big, big, big times. Anyone else have something They
I spoke with my aunt today in Israel. She lives in Tiberias, and I'm asking Sterna how you are doing there. She's yeah, and she said, you know what, my husband prepared to do air condition with this their room where they're hiding. And he needs to do this air condition because it's hot there. But I think they are excited and proud.
also excited and
Yeah.
proud, and they have a safe room within their house.
Yeah, and preparing to be there for a while. Yeah.
Well, that's good because they're probably elderly, and it's good that they have it within their house because, you know, as Chava mentioned, the people that unfortunately passed, so a number of them were elderly people that have to go in apartment buildings, downstairs, down to a shelter. And that's obviously very hard when you're elderly. And I was thinking that beforehand. I mean, we have, you know, my husband has uncles, aunts there, you know, elderly people in apartment buildings that have to go downstairs. And it's like, you know,
it's hard.
Very, very hard. Very, very hard. Anyone else? So I'm going to start, I think, with the point Menucha gave of this preemptive strike. And to me, I was also so glad, so proud, so glad, and so glad Israel finally did it right. Sometimes they do it right. Sometimes they don't do it right. Sometimes we blame the politicians. It's rare when we can feel very comfortable praising them. So I was so happy they did it right. So happy. Even though it totally messed up my children's plans. Would have been so much more convenient in like a week from now exactly. But I was like, no, bigger things at stake. I was very, 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 very grateful they made a preemptive strike. The thing to look to is the past, of course. When we look at the past, we learn the present and the future. And we see this so clearly, like nothing subtle about the need for a preemptive strike with the two wars back to back, 1967, 1973. In both of those wars, again, speaking about no subtlety here, just like now, you know, Iran wasn't covertly planning on wiping us out and didn't say a word so we wouldn't know. Iran made public daily ceremonies destroying first we're going to destroy that small Satan of Israel, then we're going to wipe out the big Satan of America. I mean, this is a daily fare. Well, similarly, in 1967, Egypt broadcasted to the world, we're wiping Israel off the map. Pushed and pushed and pushed, and we have Egypt, and they looped Jordan in, which Jordan had this very hand of God mistake, really literally at the moments when the war began, and of course Syria as well, and they're ranting how we are wiping Israel off the globe. And Israel knows this, and Israel's waiting, and the military keeps pushing. We gotta strike first, and you know how bad it looks, and grateful when political leaders make the right decision. We struck first. God gave us unbelievable success. The armies flew under the radar, and the war began with us completely wiping out Israel's entire air force. And the irony is that Jordan was sitting on the fence. Should we join? Should we not join? Should we join? Should we not join? Like, well, of course, if they're going to win, we want to join. Of course, if they're going to lose, we don't want to join. And they didn't know what to do. And the air control of Jordan spotted all these planes flying from Egypt to Israel. They reported that. The King Hussein is like, oh, wow. All these Egyptian planes are flying to Israel. Whoa, we're so powerful. And he jumped in. He didn't know those were the Israeli planes flying back after successfully destroying the Egyptian Air Force. Now they flew that they could be detected on the radar back home. So Egypt, Jordan, Syria. God didn't just want to give us the Golan Heights and the Sinai. God wanted to give us Jerusalem, and he wanted to give us the Cave of the Patriarchs, Hebron, Maras HaMachpelah. So Jordan had to join too. And in 6 days, unbelievable victory that cannot be explained. Like the famous line that West Point doesn't teach about battles in Israel, because West Point can't teach miracles. There's nothing that dramatizes that more than the 6 Day War, when we preemptively struck 6 years later. Only 6 years later, from 1967 to 1973. And just like in 67, in 73, the Israeli government knew exactly what was going on. They knew exactly the plans. Egypt, from Syria, they knew exactly what was going on. And Golda Meir and the government was like, we can't strike first. We can't strike first. The world will look bad at us if we strike first. Not understanding somehow that those that hate us will always hate us. And if we strike first, they'll hate us. And if we wait to be struck, they'll hate us. We can't strike first. We can't strike first. We can't strike first. We want to be the good guys. We want the world to like us. Okay, yeah, it's a little better strategically if we strike first, but not such a big deal. Not such a big deal. They waited. Even that very day, they were getting intelligence reports. They knew exactly what was happening. And last minute, they did a little minor something that didn't do anything. And thousands of lives were lost. Thousands of lives were taken by Egypt. Thousands of widows. Many thousands of orphans. Many Jewish soldiers taken captive by Egypt. Many tortured by Egypt because we don't want to strike first. And it was so obvious that afterwards, Golda Meir herself, the prime minister, said, I was wrong. I was wrong. And Lubavitcher Rebbe said that there were more miracles by the Yom Kippur War of 73 than the 6-Day War of 67. We're like, more miracles. The 6-Day War was the most miraculous war the world's ever seen. But we so messed up with the 73, with the Yom Kippur War. It started off so horribly that there truly was, in the natural means of things, Syria in the north, Egypt in the south, and Israel's crushed in the middle. And God made so many miracles because we weren't going to strike first. It's so important, that preemptive strike. God runs the world, but he wants us to do what makes the most sense strategically, militarily. So even though I have 5 children in Israel, even though both Musi and Moshe, their planes are canceled and they're stuck there for now, I'm very, very, very happy with the preemptive strike. And as always, it's so obvious we're living with the times, we're living with the Torah portion, the Parsha. In the Torah portion of last week, we saw it so clearly, just 2 verses I'm going to say, but there's more I even noticed. One, very strongly, in the Torah portion that we read on Saturday, Torah portion of last week, when you go to war with that evil that tries to destroy you, blow your shofar and remember that you stand before God and you'll be saved before your enemy. And also in the Torah portion, very, very famous verse, when the ark was to set out and Moses would say, advance God. May your enemies be scattered and may your foes flee before you. And we are literally seeing that happen. Literally, when we read I highly advise not listening to anything but the Jewish sources, because when you listen or read anything else, it's so, even when they're saying the truth and even when they're saying our successes, it's still somehow so warped and so tainted and so slanted. But when you actually are getting the real information, it is so unbelievable. It is so God. It makes so no sense. And this is such a critical point for us to remember. It's not us. It's not the vaunted, unbelievable IDF or Mossad now. We're seeing so many amazing things with the Mossad against Hamas, against Hezbollah, now with Iran, and before with Iran, again with Iran. It's God. And we have to remember that. We have to remember it's not us, it's God. And then, that is what the verse is saying. Remember it's God, then you will be saved. And I have to say, in all the years, Netanyahu has been around for a long time. And even in contrast to October 7th, I have never seen Netanyahu as obviously comfortable showing that he knows it's God. I'm sure many of you know that night, shortly before the attack, Netanyahu went to the Kosel, to the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, the Kotel. And nobody knew why. There were speculations. One speculation was that his son is getting married. So maybe he went to pray for his son's wedding. And there were speculations that maybe it has something to do with Iran, because of course we've been talking about Iran. It's been building up and building up and building up. And he put a note in the wall with one sentence, a verse. The verse, he crouches like a lion and like a lioness who can stand up against him. And that's the verse, that's the name for this operation, for this war. And each time he speaks, Netanyahu is freely quoting verses and saying, with the help of God, with the help of God, even when he was telling the people to stay in their shelters. He was begging the people, stay in your shelters. Shelters protect lives. Literally, I was shocked. He's just quoting the verse. Nishmartem ol lenafshosechem. God says you have to guard yourselves. You have to guard your lives. God says you have to guard your lives. So go into the shelters. It was so like, wow, he is that steeped in the awareness of God that even in this situation of saying, go into the ma'amad, go into the shelters, no, he has to bring in a verse. And how in the cabinet, when they did agree and vote and concur, and this is happening, what did the ministers say? We have to say, Dylan, let's divide up the book of Psalms. We need prayers. And I think like Chava said, I think it's such a huge sign, what Chava said, that the people are feeling the huge significance of what is happening. And basically the entire country is united. United, that's a very big thing for Israel. United behind this war, this destruction of evil, of Iran, of this existential threat, as Menucha said, to the Jewish people and to the world. And it's really, I guess personally, I think of it as so amazing because after October 7th, and it wasn't the day after, I'm not going to claim I was so smart, it wasn't. But at a certain point, I don't remember when I realized that Iran was the force behind Hamas, behind Hezbollah, I was like, okay, but how could Israel ever destroy Iran? Like I was thinking, okay, like, and then when God caused the helicopter to crash and there went that one, I was like, okay, God, that's the only way to do it. Like, God has to do it because how in the world could Israel get to destroy Iran? I mean, to put it in perspective, just the numbers. The population of Israel is 9+ million. Let's say 9.5 million, 9.75 million. A country of 9.75 million is taking on a country of 90 million. I don't know, there's a book, really a series in America, sort of like a satirical series called something like The Mouse That Roared. It's a satire about a tiny little country taking on like America. A country of 9.75 million, taking on a country of 90 million with all the wealth and resources and military, a very built up military country, a country about 900 miles away. No, we're not sending our boots to Iran. We're talking about a country 900 miles away, a country that has at its disposal drones, that takes 9 hours, cruise missiles, they take 2 hours, and hundreds of ballistic missiles. A ballistic missile can get from Iran to Israel in 12 minutes. So you think of those numbers, 90 million people, multiply that by all their resources, hundreds of ballistic missiles that take 12 minutes, that are so strong. We see what they're doing to, thank God, every life is precious. Thank God, compared to what was predicted, compared to what they thought would happen. Because look what a ballistic missile can you do. You see how these apartment buildings are just being taken down in 12 minutes? And look what's happening. And all of this, no surprise, connects very, very strongly to redemption. The sages say that before redemption, before Mashiach comes, there'll be dramatic global shifts. There'll be conflicts. There'll be confusion. Yes, we've seen the conflicts. We've seen the confusion. There'll be confrontations. We've seen that too. And the prophets spoke specifically about Persia. Persia is the ancient name for modern day Iran. Iraq, parts of Iran, parts of Iraq are ancient Persia. The prophets speak of Persia stirring up war, igniting fear, and triggering the final contractions of the birth pangs before redemption. So literally, we're watching amazing things unfold, but we're not just passively watching. There's our work, deep work, strong work, committed work. I know many of us have been working since October 7th, and we haven't slackened. And I'm sure we just jumped up to the plate and we kept working. So I'm going to share some thoughts. I was trying to think, what is our work? Besides, definitely, like Chava speaking to her sister, and Bella speaking to her aunt, and I'm speaking to my children, and obviously we want to do that. But what is our work? So I have 3 thoughts, and I'm welcome. I'd love to hear other people, what their thoughts are, what work we can do and need to do. The first work that I think we have is to remember that Israel is the safest place in the world. That was the consistent message of the Lubavitcher Rebbe throughout, before, and during, and after the Gulf War of 1990. The Rebbe kept saying, Israel is the safest place in the world. The Rebbe kept quoting the verse, it's the land where the eyes of God are constantly on from the beginning to the end with no break. The eyes of God are constantly watching that land. Now, God is watching every one of us. God has absolute watch over the smallest blade of grass or leaf or twig or ant. So when the verse says the eyes of God are constantly watching, that means even more, if we will, investment and protection. So during the Gulf War, of course, if you remember, we, again, like 67, like 73, like now, nobody's subtle here. Nobody's trying to surprise us, right? So Saddam Hussein clearly said he's wiping Israel off the face of the map, joining all of the haters before and after. And we had the date. It's January 15th. And right then, a group in New York chartered a plane, a solidarity plane. And they were asking people from YU, from Yeshiva University, a religious men's college, to go on the plane at very, very, very subsidized tickets, maybe like $50 or something, to show solidarity with Israel. Now, to put this in perspective, nobody was flying to Israel then. It's not like now where you can't fly in or out because the airport is shut down. They shut down Ben Gurion right away because they knew it would be a target. And they say right now approximately 100,000 Israelis are stranded outside Israel, which I could totally envision. Business trip, little family 3-day vacation, or stranded. And Israel is committed to trying to get them back, though I don't know if they can get all 100,000. They're not opening the airport. They're hiring ships to bring from Cyprus Israelis that have to get back home, trying to prioritize. Who do you start first when you have 100,000 on the waiting list? And otherwise, that's it. I mean, obviously, some people that are stuck might be trying to go through Egypt or Jordan to get out, but I don't know if any Jews are going to try that. But in those days, the airport was open, but all the planes were going only in one direction. Lines and lines of planes for people running out of the country. And every time somebody would ask Lubavitcher Rebbe then about leaving, always got the same answer. Of course not. Israel's the safest place in the world. Where are you running away from? And if you leave, it'll just weaken the other people. And the Rebbe was consistently the same by all the wars. The Rebbe always said, do not leave, right? The beginning of defeat is flight. When you leave, it just makes everyone else that's behind feel weaker. Don't leave. So, have a lot of people leaving. The Rebbe is saying, don't leave. And we have this chartered plane going. So at that time, my brother-in-law was learning at Yeshiva University, and he, for technical reasons, couldn't go for that week or weekend or whatever it was. But he asked my husband. My husband said, sure. I couldn't go. I couldn't leave work. And my husband took a bus, I remember, a bus from Chicago to New York, and he got on the plane from New York. And when the plane arrived, now all the planes are leaving. This is the only plane coming in. So all these reporters came over and started interviewing the people. Why did you come now to Israel? And everyone's basically the same answer. Solidarity, show support, be with our brethren in their time of pain, in their distress. They're not alone. When they got to my husband has a bit of a sense of humor. When they got to my husband and they said, why did you come? He said, Honestly, I live in Chicago. I live in America. It's a scary place. It was scary being in America. It was scary being in Chicago. But I have a chance to go to Israel. Israel, I know, is the safest place in the world. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says Israel is the safest place in the world. I jumped at the opportunity to come in a safe, secure place. They loved it. My husband said when he was traveling that week on the buses, and he was generally the only one on the bus besides the bus driver, he kept hearing the radio replaying that clip of his interview because it was such a strengthening message. Israel is the safest place in the world. I have now 5 children, plus 2 daughter-in-laws, plus 4 grandchildren in Israel. And I remind myself, and sometimes, when I get the news, I have to remind myself again, I need to remember, trust God. He's watching. Trust and trust and trust. Israel is the safest place in the world. And I think that's really not just for someone who has someone in Israel. We all have someone in Israel. We all have 7 million, I think about 2 million Arabs in Israel. So we have at least 7 million of our sisters and brothers in Israel, of our parents and children in Israel, of our cousins in Israel. And they're in the safest place in the world. And yes, there have been casualties, but that doesn't take away the facts. They're in the safest place in the world. I think that's a spiritual service we all have to commit to, is reaffirming with ourselves that vision, this is the safest place. Because as we think it, as we say it, as we believe it, it creates more and more strength. The more we trust, the more it has power. That is my first thought. My second one, of course, is charity and psalms, tzedakah and tehillim. And I'm sure many people here were regularly have been giving charity and saying psalms for Israel for sure since October 7th, that many people have very strongly been committed to that. But I think whatever you're doing, do more. I think those are our most powerful tools. Trust, like I was saying, my first point, charity and psalms, tremendously powerful, powerful tools in our arsenal. Give charity for the protection of Israel and the protection of the Jewish people, the land of Israel and the people of Israel. And say psalms. Just, you're allowed to say psalms whenever. Psalms we're very careful about. We only say by day. We don't say psalms by night. But when there's a danger, you could say psalms whenever. Say psalms. Very rarely, there have been now missiles by day, but generally, of course, they want to catch us in the middle of the night. Strategically, it's better. So their middle of the night, is still our evening. So it's an easier time for us to be up saying psalms. Give charity, say psalms, say more psalms, say more psalms. They create tremendous protection. And you don't know who, what. I saw this little clip of a 6-day-old baby they pulled out of the rubble of a safe room. Thank God, alive. And it's like, who knows what psalms were said that were creating the angels protecting that baby? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know. It's like we're sending out our missiles of love, our arrows. We don't know where they're arriving. We trust that God takes them and fashions them and uses them to create many, many, many angels. A missile landed. Most of the missiles, 95%, don't get through. What we're seeing is only 5%. A missile landed in such a populated city of Haifa on a construction site. It landed, but no one was hurt. We don't know which are the angels from the Psalms, from the charity, that are letting David's slingshot and the Iron Dome catch and destroy those missiles, allowing the fighter planes in Iran. In Iran, they have already destroyed almost all of their launchers, so they can't send the missiles. They wanted that first night. The first night, of course, they were totally shocked, and they sent like 100, all of which Israel intercepted. But then they're going to do a real deal. And they knew, we better send everything we have now, because we're not going to have them left. They had approximately 2,000 ballistic missiles. They said they were going to send 2,000. Guess what? They couldn't. Again, they sent, and unfortunately, some were not stopped by the Iron Dome and David's slingshot and other defense systems they have. But they couldn't send. Why not? because Israel's watching and destroying the launchers, trying to catch the launchers before the missile gets out there. They keep, anytime they see, the drones keep scanning the areas. They literally, I see there was a truck with a missile on it, got it. A launcher, got it. So if they have the missiles, but they don't have launchers, it's a good protection. Catch the missiles before they get to us. They've got 12 minutes, not a long time. Catch them. And then some do get through. And still, the angels created by our psalms and by our charity, protecting, even in a situation, it was very tragic, of a missile that actually got through and actually went directly into an apartment, actually went directly into the safe room of an apartment. It was very tragic. And the people there died. 2 people, unfortunately, and 3 other people that were not in safe rooms died. But people on the floor above and on the floor below, directly above and below that missile, were not harmed. The angels from our psalms, the angels from our charity. So as long as the situation is as serious as it is, and it is, Israel's the safest place, and we have to step up to the plate and do our part. More psalms and more charity. And if you're concerned, say another chapter anytime you want. You feel a concern, you feel a fear, you hear they're shooting the missiles, you hear the sirens going, say more psalms, say more psalms. As you say psalms, those are the protections around the people. And the third point I was thinking is, remember, this is part of bringing redemption. This is a very joyous situation. It might sound funny to call this a joyous situation, but I do feel, again, with everything going on and being very aware of everything going on, very connected to a lot of people there, it's very joyous for me. It's very joyous knowing we're destroying this evil. We're removing this evil from the world. And it's very joyous knowing this is literally heralding the redemption. And definitely taking down this evil empire is huge in terms of bringing redemption. So these were some of my thoughts. I'd like to hear other people's thoughts, comments on what I said, or other thoughts people were thinking in terms of what they felt was supposed to be their response, what they were supposed to do to be part of this, as I'm saying, history in the making. Any other thoughts people had on it?
Okay, I will talk a little more. Few things. So one, just want to share that, like, I usually sleep well at night. Baruch Hashem. On Shabbos, I woke up at 4:30 a.m. and like my eyes were like wide open, like don't want to sleep anymore. I'm like, wow, that's strange. I don't know what's going on. And I got up and I sat down just to read Tehillim, because that's like was so unusual, so like out of norm for me, that I felt that that's what Hashem wants me to do right now. And I just was reading Tehillim. So that's just want to share. Another thought, when you were talking, your first point about Israel being the safest place, and it's very important for us to remember it. What clicks in my head this week, Parsha starts with spies, and Hashem wanted to give us this wonderful land, and was like so hoping that people excited about land of Israel to go and live in it, and spies didn't want people to go to live in Israel, and they made this report about land of Israel to scare people, not want to go in the land of Israel. And when you were explaining and telling about this, it's just like how it is aligned with the parsha that's we learning, like the beginning of the parsha right now. I think it amplifies your point with the parsha, how we need to love Israel, believe in Israel, want all of us to be in Israel, and hopefully Mashiach comes now, and we all will live in Israel.
You're so right. You are so right. It's also the message when the people were scared. And that was the message literally in the verses we read today when the Torah is divided through the 7 days of the week is like, be strong. We can do it. Because the spies, who of course had spiritual motives, as we explained it on a deeper, inner, more Kabbalistic, Hasidic level, but had motives that they wanted to keep the Jews in the desert, so they scared them. Oh, okay, over Pharaoh, God could handle it, but the 31 powerful kings of Canaan, the land of that would be the land of Israel, too powerful. And that was literally the message portion. We're scared. We think there's a force that's too powerful. That was also something I've been thinking a lot over these days, and it's so obvious, at least to the eyes of a believer like myself. It's like not Iran versus Israel. It's Iran versus God, like they don't have a chance. And it makes no sense. The success, yes, we have very smart Jews that are involved, but they're humans. I'm sure there's very smart people in a lot of military strategic positions in the world. I don't think the Mossad is the only agency. And look what they're doing. It's like they're tools. They're God's tools. This is God's war. This is a war against evil. And no, Judaism does not believe, like in Christianity or other theologies, you have that final battle of good versus evil, like God and the forces of good versus whatever they call it, Satan and the forces of evil, and they're going to fight it out. No, that's not Judaism. There's no versus God. Everything, all good and all evil, come from God. Nobody can fight God. It doesn't exist. I'm like, look what's happening in Iran. The world, just like in 67, and just like actually ultimately what happened in 73, and just like most of Israel's wars, where, as I said, like West Point says, I don't know, I can't teach this. This isn't what I can't teach how to create a miracle. You look at what happens, like the world was like shocked by the beepers, right? That was so cool with Hezbollah and the beepers and the pagers. This is like the beepers and the pagers multiplied by 100,000 times, 1,000,000 times. All the different things they're doing that make no sense. You see that first night, again, we're 900 miles away and they're sending direct hits, targeted hits to take down the nuclear scientists exactly by name, knowing who, where, what, that they managed to strategically get all the heads of the Air Force of Iran together in one place and then bomb that place. Like, how did they do this? Because it's God's war. This is God. That's the fight. And I think it's really important to celebrate that and to see that. This is pulling down evil. As we're saying, existential evil against the Jewish people and against the world. It's funny. My husband last night, I don't know why, he was listening to I don't know how to describe it. Whatever. I'm not going to give any adjectives to the person who's saying, like, what, do they really think Iran's building a nuclear bomb? I mean, they had 50 years to build one. They haven't built it yet. They're probably not building it now. And continue along these same lines. I don't know why, like, people are being so quiet. Why doesn't Saudi Arabia say anything? Why doesn't Egypt say anything? Why doesn't Kuwait say anything? Why is everyone just letting Israel get away with it? And I'm thinking, I think even stupidity has limits. Obviously, Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Kuwait and the Emirates, they're all very quiet and rejoicing because, trust me, none of them want Iran to have a nuclear bomb. It's only to everyone's gain, wherever you are, that Iran, yes, Iraq is compliant with Israel and Jordan is compliant with Israel. Nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear bomb. So this is really a God war in terms of its virtue and righteousness, and such a God war in terms of its makes no sense success. Like we almost take it for granted. Yes, they sent that first night 200 fighter jets and 200 pilots, and their planes came back home. That's insane. Yes, they took down all their air defense system, but what happened until they took down all their air defense system? How did they not get one plane? Not one plane. 200 fighter jets went and 200 fighter jets came home. How? I remember going back, Iraq was building also, obviously didn't achieve what Iran achieved, but they were building their nuclear plant. And again, the whole world knew, and Israel was the one that did something about it, and the whole world said, no, you shouldn't do it. And Israel sent fighter planes, and they had no hope that the planes would come back. No thought the planes would come back. And exactly as the time as all this is going on in Israel, actually Lubavitch Rebbe started then. What we've discussed since October 7th, Lubavitch Rebbe's campaign for all Jews to be united by acquiring letters in a Torah scroll. And all these letters of the Torah scroll are representing some 600,000 plus Jews all over the world, and uniting them in the most precious thing we have in the Word of God in Torah, and how this creates protection for the Jewish people. The Rebbe started that campaign right before this. And the Rebbe was pushing that campaign, that it should really crescendo. There should be such an effort to get those names for the eve of the holiday of Shavuos. And on that day, the eve of the holiday of Shavuos, is when those jets went from Israel. Again, under the radars, attacked, destroyed that nuclear reactor power plant, and every one of those jets came back home. Israel didn't even know if they would destroy. They had no hope that the pilots would survive the mission. Everyone came back home. You're fighting God's wars. And I think for us, as we take strength and take pride and take joy and anticipate victory and anticipate the destruction of evil and the revelation of Mashiach, we have amazing soldiers, amazing people, amazing strategic minds. It was amazing how they did it, and the duplicity, and how they totally fooled Iran. It was amazing. It's all tools of God fighting his war. Keep up your trust. Israel's the safest place in the world. Keep up psalms and charity. Add more. Know redemption is coming. These are exciting times we live in. Exciting times to be happy about and proud. And remember, it's God's war. It's God's war. Watch that unfold. And know that we're part of it. No, you're sitting in America. You're sitting in Chicago. You're sitting in New Jersey. You're sitting in California. Our psalms, our charity, our trust. We are sending our missiles, our powerful, powerful missiles, to protect the land of Israel and the people of Israel. We're definitely part. We're not bystanders. We are definitely part of making this happen.